Welcome to another episode of the Brown and Black podcast. My name is Jack Rico.
And I'm Mike Sargent.
And every week we take a look at race and pop culture through a brown and black lens. Mike, I got a chance to see Sinners this
Finally.
Everyone's been talking about Sinners, man. Like, people that I don't even know have been talking about Sinners. It's rare for a black movie that's not called Black Panther, by the same director, mind you, for an original black film to get that level of social media virality, level of press, and the level of deep engagement on black culture. And so I had to see this movie, and I went ahead, Mike, and I paid my $20-something at this movie theater here in upstate New York. And when I walked in, I had my chairs reserved, and it was dark, and we sit down. 2 hours pass by, and the lights go on. And what was interesting to me is that everybody was white. Everybody in the theater was white. Seeing a black original movie.
Now, what was the vibe of the audience throughout? Were they with it? Were they laughing? Were they scared?
Well, okay, first of all, I don't know about much laughter.
Well, all right. Well, you know.
But there was definitely something that I just was surprised, is that they were clapping at the end of the movie.
Interesting.
Clapping. Now, it's not like the cans clapping, guys, okay?
All right, okay.
7 minutes standing over. No, but
they were throwing
like,
flowers.
It was like, oh, yeah. And the theater had emptied out because they didn't know there was a post-credit scene afterwards. If not, they would have probably stayed. But that's the theater's fault, man. We saw those post-credits with the lights on. They should have kept the lights down, signaling to the people not to leave. Something that Warner Brothers and Ryan Coogler maybe need to tell movie theaters. Dude, it's like part of the whole storyline. You got to stay till the very end. And so I saw white people loving this movie. It was a very unique experience watching that movie and watching it with that crowd. It was interesting. I want to know what your experience was in New York City, because you know, it's different.
It was different. Okay. And the screening that I went to was the combo. I was in the press area of the screening, but this was a screening that clearly was for the free ticket giveaways. So for the intended audience. So I saw it, let's say, with
a regular crowd. With a regular
crowd. Half intended, and again, a regular crowd.
I've been to those,
crowd of people. You've been to those. So I saw it like that. And there were a lot of rows that were reserved. So at least half was for press, but there was a real audience. Now, most of that audience was the intended audience, a lot of black folks. So it's interesting. And you said laughing. There was a lot of laughing in the movie. There was a lot of, listen to me. There was a lot of humor.
Laughing in this theater.
See, and that's the thing. This was a very deep, personal, multi-layered experience.
There you go.
Very much so. There are two things I just wanted to touch upon that you said earlier. The impact of this film. You talked about the deep cultural engagement that this film has caused. And this is putting Ryan Coogler, in my opinion, in a class of filmmaker where his name on a film at this point, he has proven.
Yeah, man.
His name on a film, Michael B. Jordan's in it, is great, but it's a Ryan Coogler film.
Steven Spielberg. George Lucas.
Exactly.
Ryan Coogler.
Exactly. That's one. And two.
From the mind of M. Night Shyamalan. It's
put him in that class.
Becomes the marquee draw.
That's it.
Game's over for the actor.
It's like Chris Nolan.
Yeah, you've reached the holy grail of the industry as a director.
You don't even remember who was in Tenement. You just know it was a Chris Nolan film.
That's right.
So I'm saying that. And then the other thing that's interesting to me, and again, because this has very little to do with our review, but that post-credit sequence, there's two things about that where, as a film lover, I have to acknowledge. One, the post-credit sequence is something that we've seen a lot in the Marvel movies. That's a thing. We know he's done two Marvel movies.
The influence of Marvel on him, because he understands the pleasing a crowd as well. But the show isn't just for him.
But Marvel did not do it first. It is known for, and when I say it, you'll go, that's right. It is known for and happened mostly in horror movies. There's that final sequence where the hand pops out of the grave or whatever it is after. And that's something that was in horror movies for a long time. So,
but that wasn't something that you noticed as something you'd be looking forward to.
No, it's a total
Marvel
genre thing.
scaled it and created culture around it.
Absolutely.
That was the thing that, as it gave you that insider status shit that only fandoms could bring to the table.
That's my point. This is a combo. It's both a horror movie and from the director who understands making superhero movies. Because he did Black Panther.
So all that influence, man.
Exactly. So for me, it was a very deep experience. And specifically, one of the things I loved about it, and there are many layers, but just on one layer, is that it was unapologetically Black. This was a Black movie. And it was not in your face or being preachy or anything. It was just, it was a Black movie. And the experience for me, I have to say, I have seen tons and tons of movies. I'm a movie lover. I'm a movie critic. I see lots of movies. And Jewish culture, I know so much about Jewish culture. I know so many phrases about Jewish culture. I know Jewish humor. I know things that they call each other. I just know it. It's just part of movies. I just accept it. I've seen it in movies. I've seen it on TV. And it's just, it's not Jewish in your face, but it's just the main character is Jewish. To see a film like this, where it's just so many things about it, may mean nothing, may go over the head, these are the characters, this is who they are, but it's so Black and so many things about it that only the Black audience got because they're the ones laughing in the screenings. And was such a refreshing experience for me within, and this is part of the genius of it, doing a vampire movie that transcends every culture. Every culture's got vampires. Okay, so it's a vampire movie. It's a genre movie. It's a vampire movie.
But I don't see it as a vampire movie.
I know, but that's the beauty of it.
To me, this movie is a celebration of Black culture, period. The layers of every scene was dictating some ancestral African Black moment
100%.
that led to these moments. The
100%.
Music, the language, the religion, the romance, the hustle. And I think that the part that really set that declaration to me was the scene in the middle of the movie before the vampires came, where Sammy, the blues young guitarist and singer, starts playing, starts performing. And essentially, this scene was his Terrence Malick scene. A scene that comes out of nowhere and you're in the past, but he's bringing in the future. And it doesn't make sense to the eye. It doesn't make sense to the senses of why in 1933 in Mississippi, during a vampire moment, this futuristic dude's coming in with a guitar. And you're going, what is going on here? It's because that moment is art. That moment is not an actor narrating what's going on to the audience. The audience needs to be smart. They need to understand more than anything Black history. And that is the problem with so many people that criticize this film, like that one Latino dude that went viral. It's because the dude doesn't understand his Black history. He probably understands his Latino history, but not Black. What I saw in that scene was, we are the music. It is birthed from us. Blues, as this gentleman said, he said it was the devil's music, but the devil is religion. Black music is divine music. And the foundational chords of music today come from the blues. But you wouldn't know that if you didn't understand Black history. The fact that the banjo is what the country music is made out of, man. You start then noticing the parallels. And so I enjoyed that scene because after Floyd died, I became one of those dudes that said, I don't understand enough. And I need to understand, because this has changed the world, and I'm not that caught up. Ever since that moment, all I've been doing is learning, reading 1619, which is a massive investigation. I did all that homework. So now when I look at Black movies as a Hispanic, I'm looking at it from the lens of trying to be in the Black mindset to see it. As a person who's learned their history, I did my homework on Black culture. I'm not Black, but I love Black culture. Because, yo, if you love culture in America, I hate to break it to you, buddy, but that's you loving Black. You love Black. And that scene where Remick, the white Irish vampire, comes to the door and says, yo, let me in, and starts saying, I want Sammy. Bring him out to me. This music is attractive. I go, apply that to the history of country music, stealing Black music and Hispanic music from jazz and everything else in between. How whites have come and taken it. They've appropriated it. They've commodified it for their gain through Black labor. Delroy Lindo's character, Slims, guy who got been fucked by the system. And all he had was alcohol to numb him out from the reality of the Jim Crow era of 33. When I'm seeing that scene, I'm going, oh, come on, man. This is what Barack Obama said about culture is Black culture. Music is Black music. And now movies are showing the power of Black story. What Ryan Coogler's doing, he's going where Jordan Peele was, and he's taking that shit to the next level. Jordan Peele right now is watching Ryan Coogler, and he's going, holy shit, I better step up my game.
I have so much to say on what you said, but I will say this first about Jordan Peele. I think that Get Out reminded us, and I say us, the culture, I think the industry, Black folks, horror folks, audiences in general, that genre is a great way. This is what I meant before when I said the genius of making it a vampire film. Everything you just talked about. Think about marketing a film that's going to do all of that. That, like, how are they going to market that? Some Black historical epic? No. It's a vampire movie. It's a horror movie under genre, genre, just like
that's the presentation, Mike. That's the presentation. That's the marketing lingo.
Listen to me.
But to the audience, that's a Black movie.
Listen to what I'm saying here, dude. What I'm saying is that's like the Trojan horse.
Yeah.
I'm saying with a comedy, the beauty of comedy, horror, science fiction is that you can speak about the human condition in much broader, more depth than you could in a drama. And a drama would be heavy-handed. Who wants to necessarily see a story about the South? Black people often say they don't see Black historical dramas because they don't want to see how it was back then. They don't want to see that. That's not why they go to the movies.
Little Marvin talked about this and about Black trauma and how Black audiences are sick of seeing themselves always being beaten by some white guy in a slave movie.
Exactly.
That trauma has to stop. And so now but it's interesting because he touched upon.
He does. But again,
he never fully immerses himself in
within the context of genre, he can speak to all those things. And for me, it's funny, all the things you were mentioning to me, a lot of that stuff, that's the obvious stuff to me. That's the stuff, I love that that's there. It's all the little stuff, the subtle things.
So what were the subtle things?
All right, I'll just give you two things to me that stood out to me. That the whole sequence when he plays the music and we start going through all these different cultures and going through time and all of that, besides the amazingness of how that scene was choreographed and the genius art of the idea and how visual that scene is and what it took to film and all of that, it was also a recreation. There's a very famous artist in Black culture named Ernie Barnes. He's probably most known to people, if you're old enough, that in the beginning of the TV show Good Times, there's this painting that they would always show. And it's a famous painting called The Sugar Shack. But he's a famous artist that depicts all kinds of Black people in joyously intermingled. This was a literal recreation of an Ernie Barnes painting. Now, that's a subtle thing that if you don't even know about whatever. But for me, that was like, I get that. I see what he's doing there. It was just clear. And I think some people have even written about it. Another thing that stood out to me. Do you remember the sequence when one of the smoker stack goes to the Asian store and says to the, look, guys, I need all this food for this thing I want to do. And the little girl runs across the street to the other store to get the mom. Do you remember that? Now, what was that other store to you? The other store was the store where the whites go.
Oh,
now you see,
right. Okay,
again, it was very subtle. It was not something most people
very subtle.
Very subtle.
Because
but it was,
he didn't make a big deal out of it.
Exactly.
But it was in the background.
It was in the background.
Part of the ambiance.
It's something that, as a Black person, you totally are seeing. You're like, okay, and that's historically accurate to the Asians and what they did in that time and all of that. And again, the mark of a great film is it makes you want to go do research and look up more. So those are just two examples of things that are subtle, that are there, that had meaning to me.
Interesting. For me, the movie hit a lot of buttons for me. Like I think initially when I heard about Sinners and I heard Coogler and Michael B. Jordan team up again on an original story, automatically you knew that this was going to get some backlash in some form because Black actors, Black filmmakers, don't you know you're not supposed to do Black original films? Come on, we're not even doing original films. Now you want to do Black original films? You're out of your mind. And wait a minute. And you're asking for the rights of the movie to return to you in 25 years? Ask Nolan if he has it. Go ahead. But we're going to give it to you. Because, most directors who do, Marvel movies and then do the personal, you kind of forgive him, but because he's Black, will he be forgiven, Mike? And I think we saw that with the variety issue. This is why when you're a Black person or a person of color or even a woman, even if you're white, the system is almost against you from day one.
Almost. Here, I have a question I would always ask, because as much as I've experienced prejudice, racism, I intellectually have tried to wrap my head around it. And the question I would ask is, why is cultural pride equal cultural prejudice? Like, why can't you love your culture and be just as fascinated and interested in somebody else's too? Why? I don't understand why the two can't always go together.
What do you mean?
Meaning you are proud of your culture, but you're also interested in other cultures. It's
for you.
I know I am. That's what I'm saying. Why aren't people like that? That's my question. Why? Why is that not the way it is? Why are humans not?
I think this is why we've come together, Mike.
Yeah.
Because of my love and curiosity for your culture and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what allows us to be able to dissect these movies that are multicultural, that aren't usually getting the level of focus the way we're giving it, from a non-white perspective.
Basically,
shit, man. How many people get to do that? Not many.
Maybe we should change the name of our show to basically non-white.
I don't think it has the same ring to it.
Not quite the same.
I want to talk about this variety thing for a second, because I do think it was a big deal. And I think we have to understand the system that we're working on and what this means for creators and filmmakers of color moving forward. All right. Never did I think that at this level with Ryan Coogler, that variety would diminish somehow the cultural significance of that box office Monday that we all woke up to. It made what, 60 million it was?
61.
$61 million at the box office. And they're like, because it cost 90 million, it's going to have to break 200 million.
It's got a ways
to
go.
Least, it's got a ways to go. Let's put an asterisk on it. The New York Times said, this is why, Mike, when you put films of color and you put a white film journalist or a white film critic to view it, you're going to tell me that their biases on Black people and Black culture are completely objective? Or you're going to tell me that you're not carrying what you've been seeing since you grew up about Black people in the news, in handcuffs, the most negative lights on them? You're not growing up with that, and then subconsciously you're going to tell me that you're not putting that into the box office headline at Variety?
Dude, when Ben Stiller has to call you out on your bias for a Black filmmaker, come on.
That says it all.
I think that says it all.
Your bias. And the fact that all of these editors at Variety, right now, Variety is on a lot of people's shit list because you showed your true colors, Variety. You showed us what you really think of Black film and Black culture. And now you can try and smooth it out. Maybe you might reprimand a couple of people. But the question is, did you have a Black editor involved that could have maybe mentioned this to you? No. This is why, Mike, I think it's extremely important now more than ever to have film journalists of color covering these things along with whites, not to just replace them, but together. You're going to tell me that, I'm curious, was every single editor that went through white? I happen to believe if one of them was Black, they would have caught that shit. That was a big fuck up, man.
I don't see it as a fuck up so much as a reveal.
To them, that was normal. To diminish a Black film was normal. You can't be as good as Nolan. We can't give you that. I will not give you that.
But like you said, I think that's not even a conscious thing.
No. That's what makes it worse.
Not only is that what makes it worse, but not to get political, but in these times, okay,
you're too late for that, Mike.
I know. In these times, the entire precept of being against DEI is to pretend that bias doesn't exist. And something like what happens in Variety makes it so clear of the bias from a journalistic standpoint that then that is part of why traditional legacy media outlets have become, let's just say, not what they once were. They're not the gold standard they used to be. So as a brown and Black person in media, you have to look elsewhere to get the kind of coverage you want. Yeah, there's the big three, but if that's how one of the big three is going to cover it, what does that really tell me?
Everyone else in that editorial room thought it was normal to diminish Black movies because how dare they? The gall of you to make $61 million. How dare you? That's what I got from that fucking headline, which is why Ben Stiller had to say something, dude. Awkward. You're an institutional 100-year-old magazine. And shit, man. Shit. Like, now your ethics are in question. Now the Hollywood Reporter and Puck News and the Anchor, that's it. You're going to have people move over. Person of color, why trust you now? Here in America, we've been talking a lot about this issue with the media and how they approach success and how they approach Black excellence, man. And I think to a lot of people, it's very scary. To white people, that is...
You can't be too good. I'm not as good as you, and I'm afraid for my survival.
And when you start thinking about the situation at home, you start thinking, well, maybe outside of America, it's different. And one of the things I want to talk about is the global rollout of this movie, Sinners, because I was in touch with a friend of mine in Japan, and he told me that the movie wasn't being released there. And then when you fact check it, Mike, Warner Brothers, for some reason, decided not to put the movie in Japan, South Korea, and clearly China has already created their laws that they're not accepting many American movies any longer. But it's weird because there's Chinese people in the film. And so you should see it. You should see what that history was in the South in 1933 in Mississippi, where the Asians were. It's also a part of an Asian story and history that was highlighted.
It's part of American history.
There you go. Even better.
That they're working so hard to bury. Yeah, it is very ironic considering how powerfully the Chinese are portrayed in the film and just how important our connection has been. In a time that is so divisive, it's a shame.
And I think that you start thinking, are Asians anti-Black? Or is it that Warner Brothers doesn't think it would sell in a country that might be anti-Black? Like, this is what I don't know, because I'm not in those rooms, and it would have to be either somebody from Warner Brothers or Ryan Coogler's team at Proximity Media that would leak that. But the question that I have as a journalist myself is, why wasn't it rolled out in Asia? Why? What do you know about the reception of what that movie would have had there? Is it coming out next year? Will there be a rollout? But right now, we can't find a rollout for Asia. And it's such an important market because you can imagine the box office numbers if that movie were to roll out in those countries. It would just add and add to the lore that's already being built. But if you're telling me that Asia might not, because this movie isn't in Asia, that it might be because of some sort of anti-Black bias, then dude, that's an interesting take for Black filmmakers coming into the industry, Mike.
If you do a search for Sinners not released in Asia, Sinners not released in China, Sinners not released in Japan, nothing comes up.
Wow. It's the weirdest thing. The fact that the movie has Chinese, Asian immigrants in the movie, part of an American story, and you're not going to release it there?
There's got to be a lot more to it. There's got to be a lot more to it.
And what is not being said?
Who knows, dude? Today, who knows?
Mike, as we're heading towards the end of the show, I just want to point out why this movie matters so much. If you just look at what it's done in achievements itself, will explain a lot of why it matters. Sinners is only the fourth Hollywood film this year to cross $150 million globally, okay? It joins Minecraft movie, and here's the interesting thing. It joins Captain America Brave New World. That's a brown and black movie. That's a black and brown movie. And then Snow White globally, right? That's a Latina that got a lot of shit from everybody here in America. Anthony Mackie got a lot of shit here in America about Captain America being black. And now we have Ryan Coogler in a vampire black movie, and it's not being put out in Asia.
What's interesting about that milestone that you're mentioning about making so much money and what you're comparing it to, Captain America, Snow White, those are pre-existing IPs. This is an original film. This is an original piece of storytelling that came from a filmmaker who has already worked with existing IPs and made them very well.
Which is why it's even more rare and significant.
Exactly.
This is why this movie matters, because in a world of sequels and IPs and Mattel toys becoming movies, right, if you saw the studio, they were making a Kool-Aid movie. It's hilarious.
I saw that,
but
yes.
The other thing that this says as well, Mike, is that black actors and Latino actors can sell globally. Which makes the whole Asia rollout exclusion even weirder. And this movie now, Sinners, is on track to surpass A Quiet Place, day one, with Lupita Nyong'o, $130 million. Mufasa, The Lion King, that had Beyonce.
Let me say something else too, that is significant to me very specifically, that bothers me because of my knowledge of the history of this. And that is that this is a movie that it's not just that it has Black leads. Okay, there was a movie came out a little while ago, The Woman in the Yard, and even Mufasa, and Snow White, and even Captain America. It's not even that they were pre-existing IPs. Forget all that. This is something that was written, directed, created by a Black person starring Black people. To me, A Woman in the Yard just had a lot of Black leads in it because, hey, guess what? Get Out made money, and Black horror now can make money. So similar to the plot in Sinners, where it's, I forgot the line. It's, we want you want your music, and we'll give you something back. You remember that line with the vampires? We'll give you acceptance into the vampire world. And it is a great metaphor because that's exactly what happens. So to me, it shows the power of us telling our own stories, even though it's a made up story and it's a vampire story, but it takes place in the reality of a time that existed. And that's part of what makes it so powerful.
And here's the last thing I'm going to say about this. Mm-hmm. As a person of color, as a Hispanic, living in America, understanding the racial dynamics of this country against us, against our language, against our skin colors.
Oh, you mean not being the official language?
Yeah, and us being deported like crazy. Yes, that one. This movie, to me, is about Ryan Coogler establishing Black culture as the dominant cultural force, not only in America, but globally. This is his way of cementing that and letting you know who we are. It's all about uplifting. It's all about empowerment. It's all about inspiration. It's all about aspiration. It's all about excellence. It's all about art. And it's all about love. It's all about love for your culture. And in that, I just wish that one day our filmmakers, our Latino filmmakers, can tap into their cultures the way Ryan has here and can find a story, because with Latino horror, that is our shit. Like, we're known for the Latino horror, yet we really haven't had anything this beautiful be done. And so the future for Latino filmmakers and any other multicultural filmmaker, don't tell them that your culture sucks, that your culture cannot exist, cannot be seen by white folks, that you'll make them too uncomfortable if you tell them too much about your culture. Yeah, that might work with MAGA folks walking out of theaters, but that's not working with the rest of the intellect people, the cultured people, which is a lot, man. You know, a lot of people who read, a lot of people who love traveling, who understand the plight of the marginalized. It's, to me, this is what every filmmaker should do. They should do their art, but bring their culture and cement the excellence of what that culture represents to them and to the world. Here it is. Love it. Enjoy it. Cherish it. And that's it for this episode of Brown and Black. And if you would like to support this podcast, please subscribe and leave a review. Your help will allow us to be heard by many more people. You can follow our comments and opinions on @BrownBlackPodcast on Instagram, YouTube, and now on Substack. We'll see you on the next episode of Brown and Black.